Good day, my name is Lydia and you're watching Open Studio right here on Cape Town TV. So today in studio with me I have two amazing ladies who are running an NGO going about helping women who come from a domestic violence home, and they are here to tell us more about what they do and who they are. Welcome, ladies. Can you please tell us the history of Sister Incorporated, and why did you start it, the reason behind starting Sister Incorporated?
Thank you for having us on this program. We really appreciate it. Sisters Incorporated was started in 1959, and we're officially celebrating 60 years this year. So it's a milestone for the organization. Yeah. And the organization was originally started because of, in that era, there was ladies, single ladies, young girls, teenage girls, falling pregnant, and an era where it was an embarrassment, a shame to the family, and they needed to find where they can actually send the girls to.
Okay.
And then coming back from a holiday per se.
So how did you transition from that to helping ladies who have been abused, I can say?
Okay. The ladies in the 1980s, abortion was legalized, and then the organization had to relook at the vision and the mission of the organization to see how can they change. And for that reason, it is now that we accept women that comes from that is rape survivors, as well as coming from domestic violence backgrounds. But we're still open to those ladies that want to give up the babies for adoption, single ladies that feels okay, they don't want to take the babies.
Oh yeah, because I was actually about to ask, on your website you do say that you help women and children, and how do you go about that, Celeste?
I think the distinction that we need to make is that it's the woman is the primary client for us, and their children. So it's not a children's home. It's specifically a home for women that have faced domestic violence, as you reference, interpersonal violence, so not intimate partner violence only, rape survivors, and then women wanting to give their babies up for adoption. So if you envisage or imagine a situation or scenario where a woman is leaving a domestic violent situation, she might be running with her children. So that's where the children would be accompanying the mom, so that she doesn't have to leave them behind, but can leave the situation with her children for a short-term period.
You just mentioned that it's not only about intimate
partner violence, which would be, a lot of the time when people think about domestic violence, they think immediately of wife battering.
Yes.
Okay, so they think of an abuse by a husband or partner on the wife. And these days, if you think about it, we cannot just, keep it as a one kind of grouping and say husbands and wives, because there are so many different kinds of relationships in our country these days. And also, it's not just matrimonial relationships, but any kind of relationship. So as an organization, we would reference domestic violence, but if you look at our circumstance in society and communities, we sometimes have more than one family living in a home. So interpersonal violence would refer to violence between you and I within a domestic situation, but we're living in the same house.
Okay.
So it's not necessarily husband to wife. We acknowledge that there are different forms of domestic violence.
So what kind of women do you actually deal with, like on a daily basis as you're running this organization?
Well, when you ask what kind of woman?
Yeah, as in like situations, like the different situations that they go through, and the people that you're accepting each and every day.
So within our criteria and within our admissions, we do have certain guidelines. The three that Deline has mentioned are our primary criterion, that being interpersonal violence linked to domestic violence. So a survivor of a situation or circumstance like that, a rape survivor, or a woman that's pregnant wanting to give a baby up for adoption. Though that sounds really broad, and it tries to be all-encompassing, but of course we do have our limitations, whether it be structurally, for example, we might not have sufficient access in terms of wheelchairs, yet we do have a ramp facility. So there are certain limitations, but we open to any religion, any culture, any race,
Yeah.
and we try not to be discriminatory in that practice.
Yeah. Let's talk about the vision and the mission of the organization.
The vision and the mission is basically to empower the women when they come from these situations. We aim to be a beacon of hope for the women that comes through our gates. And when the women come there, we find that some of them has not got enough skills to actually find employment because they've been in the abusive situation for so long. They were told that they are not good enough. So what we at Sisters Incorporated does is to empower the women with skills and also to provide them with a safe, secure environment that they can stay in for a short period of 3 months.
Okay. Now you're based in Cape Town, right? So which parts of Cape Town do you cater to?
We are based in Cape Town, yes, as a broader spectrum, but that doesn't limit our geographical intake. So we don't have what you'd refer to as a drainage area or catchment area that we only service. We would service any lady that's in need and that meets our criterion. And of course, if we have the space and the capacity to facilitate that process.
Earlier I asked what kind of women you deal with each and every day and stuff. Like most women are not open about their experiences or whatever they're going through. How do you really get that out and really make them comfortable? And how do you really go about starting to tackle the things and just like removing all the barriers, removing this, removing that, for them to be comfortable and be at home? And yeah,
I think something important that you're identifying is that it is a process, and for each person that process and journey is going to look different. Right at the start, I want to say that, a lady's not going to end up being taken into the shelter without her having taken the first step of making contact.
sure.
So already for herself, she's already identified a certain level of a barrier that she's broken. And once they've made that first step, remember also that when we look at statistics and research, it says it takes a woman up to 12 times to leave a relationship successfully. And even in saying that, it might not be the same relationship. So she might leave, run away, leave, complete the program, return to the partner, or leave that partner but find herself in a similar pattern, sort of in another relationship.
Celeste, your point is what I want to actually stick onto, but we have to take a quick break, and we'll continue the conversation just after these. Welcome back. I am still with Sister Incorporated, and we are still talking about the NGO that goes about helping women and children, I'll say. Before the break, we were talking about how you get to help the women who reaches out, and how sometimes they actually go back to where they came from.
Yes.
How does that happen?
Well, your original question was about how we get them to break down the barrier.
Yes.
So I'm going to link the two.
Okay.
Well, you must remember that there's no mandate or forced entry, if I can put it that way,
Okay.
for ladies to be taken into the shelter. It needs to be on a voluntary basis. So ladies have to make contact with us. We do get contact from hospitals, police, other referring organizations, but it's still important for us to be able to have contact with the client themselves. And once that happens, there's already that barrier broken down because somebody's already willing to reach out.
Yeah.
And in that process, there will be an opportunity for screening with either myself or one of our social auxiliary workers as well, to determine whether they do meet the criterion. If they do and we have space, then we would take them into the shelter, and then a series of programs and therapeutic interventions will commence, which is where that breaking down of barriers would enlist and ensue.
Yeah.
In terms of the returning back, remember it's a voluntary process. And so it's like any of us being in any kind of relationship, whether it's a marriage or a girlfriend and boyfriend or lifelong partners, or even just a friendship for that matter. You can decide today that you're tossing out and you're not best friends anymore, and tomorrow it's like, oh, the sun is shining, let's go to the beach, you know? So it's really a process that a person has to go through to be able to get to the point to say, well, this is not what I stand for, this is not what I want for myself. So really redefining boundaries and values is very important. And once ladies have made the decision that this is not what I want for myself, I've faced the different kinds of abuse, because we're not only referring to physical abuse when you're talking about the different kinds of ladies coming through. We're also talking about sexual abuse, emotional abuse, verbal abuse, psychological, spiritual, structural. There's an array that we attend to. And the exposure that the children face. And sometimes the children's exposure is the turning point for the lady to reach out. So it's a series of different little events, I would say, that would mark points of breakthrough for that individual client.
So you mentioned that you get them into various programs. So can you tell us about these programs, what they are, and what you offer?
Sure. So at the home itself, I think the main thrust for the home, linked to the vision and the mission, as the manager has alluded to, is first finding a place of safety. Okay, so the lady and her children, or even on her own, have run away from a violent situation, or, well, seemingly violent, depending on the nature of the abuse, and they get taken in. So that the first point of reference is a safe place, away from violence, where they can settle in and regroup, get some good rest initially. But then within the home and on the premises, we have different programs that we put in place as well. So there's group work with myself as the social worker. There's also group work with the social auxiliary worker. We have outside facilitators and organized service providers coming in to do some programs. We also send the ladies out on some group work programs outside of the organization in a safe, allocated and arranged space. But on site every single day, the ladies participate in a skills program. So we like to term that occupational therapeutic services. So in that program, we have a skills coordinator that would take the ladies through the paces of beadwork or doing mosaic or knitting, etc. So while the hands are busy doing something, the mind is busy processing and settling and orientating and sorting itself out. And then they would also have access to individual therapeutic intervention from myself as the social worker.
All right. How many people do you take in? Like, how many people does do you accommodate? How many people does the shelter take in?
We have bed space for 28. So whether it's 28 women or whether it's 18 women plus 10 children, that is how we cover the bed space.
And how long do they stay?
Women and the children can only stay up to a period of 3 months, and that is stipulated by Department of Social Development because we are in agreement with them. However, Celeste will come to me and say, Darlene, this little woman needs a little bit more time. And then we will look at the case together and then give the person extension. But it's always on a need basis and not just, I don't have anywhere to go from here. It's now a matter of, Darlene, the person is in the process of that help. So can we just give them maybe 2 weeks grace, 3 weeks extension, something to that effect. But officially it is supposed to be 3 months.
Okay. So now when you've helped them, now they've come in and they've reached out and all this process is going on, they're getting the help that they need, and now they're okay. What do you do after that?
It's not a matter of what we do, it's where they act in their space. You know, women come into us and sometimes physically broken, but sometimes it's emotionally. So through the processes with what Celeste does with the women, she puts in an individual development plan. So from the day that they move into Sisters, they know that they have 3 months, and we look at where to from here, because 3 months is short. It's 90 days short. So Celeste will put in a plan to make sure that if the woman leaves, she's going back. Either if she does decide to go back to the partner, then we have the option of getting the partner counseling as well.
Okay.
And if she decides she's going to other family members, Celeste will have put everything, those things would have been put in place over the 3 months.
Okay. Just a quick question. Do you call them after that, like a follow-up and things like those?
So that will be referred to as aftercare services.
Okay.
So even though the time frame stipulated by our partnerships is a 3-month.
Okay, Celeste.
That's fine.
Sorry, we will come back to that question because I really do want to know. Don't go anywhere. We will be back just after these. Welcome back. I am still with Sisters Incorporated, and we're still having a chat with them, telling us what they do and what they are all about. Before the break, we were talking about whether you do follow up and you call them, and because I'm imagining someone coming to get some help, and now they're okay, and they actually at the stage in their lives where they can actually move on. But then not to forget that I needed help then, and we helped them. So what do you do?
Yeah. So I said to you that we refer to it as aftercare services. Yeah. Even though the stay is a 3-month time frame, the ladies know whether they stay for the full 3-month course, or whether they choose to leave at their own risk voluntarily before the 3 months has expired. They always know that they still have access to us as Sisters Incorporated, because yes, like you rightly point out, we become, lots of the ladies actually say we become their family and we become their home or their frame of reference, because they've run away from what was home and found safe haven in a different home. Yes. So interestingly enough, ladies that were there, resident with Sisters before I was there or before Deline was there, would come back and knock at the door and say, we have a new situation, or we need guidance on something or a reference point, please can you point us in the right direction. Yes. So whether it's ladies that we physically actually have met or know, but if they're known to Sisters Incorporated, because it's become a place in the community that people know, they would come back. So in terms of the aftercare services at the moment, the limitation is that could only happen during the day, and most of the time we request for it to be on an appointment basis. But you know, when there's an emergency or when you desperately need to get some sort of support, that doesn't always happen on an appointment basis. So ladies come in, they will like walk in, or they'll make the arrangement for an appointment, and then we go through the paces of whatever the support it is that they need, set up those reference points for them, and do the necessary guidance or referrals from there.
All right. How important is it to have like social workers, and are there social workers? You mentioned that you're one of the social workers working.
It's going to sound biased if I talk about it, so I don't know if you want the manager's input on that, but
she's the manager.
She's the manager, yes, and I'm the social worker there. So at the shelter we have one social worker, which is myself, and we have one social auxiliary worker. I think, you know, when you ask that question, the importance of that question for me links back to the vision, the mission, and the goal of the organization. So if that whole objective is only to house the person, then you can tick it off your list without the social worker. But if you are looking at, like Deline referenced, in terms of our vision and our goal, to empower women, you need to have a certain kind of plan that you put in place. And for sure, with the rest of the team, because it's a team effort, everybody has to be willing to greet the person. Remember, women are coming from different walks of life with different experiences, different levels of cognition, different status of mental health. So everybody on the team, not just the social worker, needs to be willing to be flexible and adjustable and adaptable to the personality or the person that they are meeting. Some are totally recluse, withdrawn, isolated, because that's part of the abuse that they face. They don't know how to make eye contact. So they need to be engaged by the manager or one of the other team members to be able to say, good morning, you know, how do you greet me, good afternoon, good evening. How do you contact a person? How do you engage a person? But in terms of the intervention of the social worker, it's part of the agreement with social development, as Delina has referenced earlier as one of our partners for funding, that there needs to be social work services and intervention so that there can be therapeutic intervention in place, so that it's not just about it being a safe place.
Yeah.
Although the safe place does give a lot of what the person needs, but it's to be able to, like you referenced earlier, break some of those barriers and move forward.
Yeah. As I was doing my research on your website, you mentioned that you give care with no judgment, free of judgment. And I thought to myself, what does that mean? And I was like, I am going to ask this.
I think in terms of not judging a person, everybody goes through something at some point in their life. And if we have to, as carers, or shall I say the word that I use normally, as servants, because we're called to serve, we can't judge you walking through our door. We can't judge your situation. So all we do is to receive you, arms open wide, even though you physically want to attack us, even though you lash out at us. We just show compassion, kindness, love, care. And I think that is how we get through it. I personally has been in this sector, in the victim empowerment sector for 5 years. And I think that is what has carried me, being able to take a woman and just offer love and offer kindness. Because women would shout at you. And you look at them and you just talk to them and smile and embrace them.
Yeah.
And that's what you do.
So let's talk about the future of Sisters Incorporated.
Sisters Incorporated right now is busy creating a book. And on our newsletter, which I have here, it says 60 years in the footsteps of survivors. And that's going to be the name of the book. So in the book, you'll find the history, where it started, who started it, and where it's at now. So that is one of the things we were at with the future. Long-term Sisters Incorporated is wanting to have another home. A home where we can say to the woman that you are able to stay, besides the 3 months you're here with us right now, here is a space where you can live for a year. You pay some rent and whatever, but it's also a way of a stepping stone for the person. And that is long-term what we want to do.
Yeah. Thank you so much for actually speaking to us. And just this insightful, I'd say, information, but I would like to know, where can we get you?
Okay, we do have a website, which is www.sisters.org.za. We do not disclose the physical address. I suppose you've seen that on the website.
Yeah. And
neither do we disclose it on Facebook, because we are on Facebook as well. And you can contact us via telephone, which is 021-797-4190, or send an email to info@sisters.org.za.
Okay, thank you so much, and thank you to our viewers. This is Open Studio right here on Cape Town TV. My name is Lydia. Until next time, goodbye.